Texas family stalked by border drone 100 miles deep inside south-central Texas. Do you have ancestral roots in south-central Texas? You might want to eat out less this week and invest the savings in a tank of gas and spend some time in LaSalle County, Texas, reading tombstones of family pioneers that lay in rest on the biggest oil-gas boom that has hit Texas since the 1950s. You won't see much if you take the beaten path of I-35 south towards Laredo, just miles of sagebrush, cactus, and mesquite trees. Occasionally, you'll see empty farmhouses and closed businesses dotting the way as a constant reminder left in the wake of Bush-era tax cuts to the wealthy and big oil tax exemptions that caused the biggest global meltdown since the Great Depression. Or is it proper to say by now the Great Depression too, so we don't get confused? You can't help but wonder with empathy where these people are sleeping tonight, or if their children make up the stats of the 30% high school dropout rate in Texas. If you're a roughneck or oil engineer looking for a job, it's just old news that assimilated faster than new high-speed internet corporations that gobbled up billions in grant money for the same old service. If you just want to find out about the oil rights grandma left the family but did not file a will and probate, just head toward the Cotulla Courthouse. That is in the process of being totally restored to its original bright-colored mosaic of ceramic tiles. However, you won't find what you're looking for there because the records have been moved to a temporary location. To find the court records for rightful heir to oil and gas rights, follow my path to the old schoolhouse where President Lyndon Johnson taught my kin. Wondering why an oil tycoon moved hundreds of miles south of Johnson City to get a teaching job? That's where all the handwritten journals are now, stored and available to search for your land deed and mineral rights. You better get there quick. Law students fill the halls searching for you, studying old books that have not been opened since the days they were closed and put on the shelf as a record of court proceedings dating back to when the Nueces River was the actual border between Texas, Mexico, not the Rio Grande. If it's too crowded and the wait is too long, stop by the Catiula Library, dedicated to my great-grandpa, who is in charge of land grant distribution appointed by the Texas Railroad Commission. Take the scenic view south of San Antonio by way of Somerset down rural Route 1333 on the east side of Highway I-35. If you need a more detailed abstract map, just use Texas Governor Rick Perry's eminent domain green Crayola drawing of the planned Trans-Corridor Highway that marks the spot of hidden treasures that can make you a millionaire. Bring along the camera too. You might get lucky like we did and spot a UFO. Yesterday, after driving for 45 minutes, hypnotized to the road mirages of summer heat, kid in the back seat says, "Look, a flying saucer." I immediately said, "Is it a bird? Is it a plane?" No, it's super drone, capable of reading a milk carton at 20,000 feet, unable to read a license plate at a right angle or straight down. That makes me the first redneck to sight a Texas border drone July 7th, 2011. This was not a coincidence. The aircraft descended to treetop altitude to get a reading off our family automobile license plate and photographs of the occupants. We were being stalked by NASA's global geospatial tracking of individual targets. This was not target practice or a routine run. What should disturb most Texans? These drones go out of control frequently and wreck into what lay below them. However, the Department of Defense hopes to have FAA regulations in place so that pilotless drones can fly in Texas by the year 2015. I can't help but wonder who was piloting this pilotless drone from a remote location, targeting me once again with intent. After several reports to the Justice Department concerning low-altitude attacks by black domestic helicopters, after my graduation from the University of Texas in fall 2008, Chevy OnStar has still not paid damages to persons who bought their GPS product with a strict guarantee they would not be used to track or share that information with the state of Texas or any government agency. Maybe the stalking has something to do with the new university privacy regulations concerning disabled students, shoved under the White House carpet before Barack Obama stepped on it, which means All students with disabilities will be targeted for unofficial staff breaches, which includes disabled veterans like me. I hope to find out soon after writing all my representatives concerning oversight after they damn near killed me a few times. The new regulations should be applied while you attend school, not for 3 continuous years or lifetime after graduation. You can say Texas Fusion Centers are just like the Hotel California. You can check in anytime you want, but you can never leave. Boy, if those high school students knew that their tracking card IDs could make them a lifelong target to any politician's wish, or worse, a victim of solid state, they would all seriously think about the benefits of being homeschooled. Maybe that's why we see so many of these surveillance helicopters roving around on a thick, cloudy day. But that's okay. President George Bush said it'll keep us safer. Now Governor Rick Perry is saying the same thing to justify guns on campus. It'll keep us safer. What's next once you're on the list for target practice? Biolethal electronic attacks from tower, aircraft, aerospace, or any victor? How about being zapped by an electronic pulse with a petawatt of power once per second, 400 times as much as the combined instantaneous output of all the world's electric plants while driving your pickup to the grocery store with Grandma? By the way, lock your doors when you go through a small South Texas town. It could be one of Governor Rick Perry's sanctuary towns where criminals hang out. Nah, don't worry. All the criminals are still in legislative late session in the sanctuary Texas capital city of Austin, Texas. If you take a trip, you'll notice miles of machine-laid goat-proof fences that stand a good 12 feet high with a bulldozed perimeter zone of 100 yards wide on the other side of the fence where the grass is really greener on the other side. I was looking for a good photo shot of one of those goats that can jump that fence. I bet San Antonio Spurs fans would be impressed with that jump, or perhaps most would just nod their heads reaffirming that everything is bigger in Texas, especially taxes for nonprofits and small businesses. Maybe it's something to do with the NSA top-secret program, Men Who Stare at Goats. Can't help but wonder, passing all those microwave towers that have replaced windmill water pumps that have been in existence a century before electrical blackouts stopped us from doing our daily chores, and our governor has to borrow power from Mexico to keep Texas afloat. Few understand that gasoline that makes up the majority of a barrel of raw crude is a toxic waste product we had no idea what to do with until Henry Ford came up with a way to burn it off with the internal combustion engine. Benzene is another toxic waste, but it seems to work well in deep well fracturing. With the threat of terrorism and all that, it seemed to be a good idea to find a purpose for it as a secret recipe to get more out of an investment instead of a dry hole, justified by the 9/11 Patriot Act in the name of national security. We had it pretty damn good less than a century ago. I know because I stopped by the Brush County Museum in Cotulla, Texas, and visually worked over a model of Great-Grandpa Ramsey's Artisan Wells farmhouse protected by a plastic cover, a window in our past that proves before the automobile and electricity, we actually did have ways and means to live a healthy, balanced, meaningful life in concert with nature without the dependence on oil or gas. Don't miss the collection of Texas veterans that fought in Mexican-American War, World War I, II, Korea, and Vietnam. I promised the museum next time I will bring a picture of my father to hang next to his Silver Star citation already framed and hanging on the wall. The citation reads, for dragging 2 wounded Marines to safety and was shot 3 times through the back by the enemy, which was actually Chinese soldiers. The media reported for 20 years were not involved in fighting or defending a frozen lake in North Korea called the Chosin Reservoir. If you don't believe me, come on by. I'll ask him to get off his tractor and pull up his shirt. When I was a kid, I could put my finger in deep in all 3 holes, and he told me and my brothers that he served for us and none of us had a duty to go to war. But hell, we didn't listen and joined up as soon as we could. Lucky for me, I was deferred a year or so after swearing in at the privilege of my country a few months after President Johnson stopped the Vietnam War that never was started, which we called a police action. Yes, the same president that taught my kin in the school where records of mineral rights are now temporarily stored in Cotulla, Texas, when San Antonio was just a one-horse town. Few people know, days after our exodus from Saigon, the vacuum of our departure drew the Chinese in to take over where we left off and got their asses kicked so hard you won't read about it in history books. Just take my word for it. What I'm saying is true. Just as true as the capital invested in Eagle Ford shale drilling are Chinese dollars that reap half of the profits. That makes me wonder, does the 9/11 Patriot Act really keep us safer? Or the oil-rich elite wealthier, who ignore the health, welfare, and education of Texas youth by way of fear, oppression, or stock down like Texas wild feral hogs by NASA's global geospatial tracking of individual targets? G.N. Odell, July 7th, 2011, rural South Texas, USA.